Hello everyone and welcome back to yesterday's Britain Scrapbook. We're exploring the quirky history, the odd origins and the even odder nicknames of the coins that once jingled in British pockets before decimalisation changed everything in 1971. If you've ever found yourself scratching your head wondering exactly how and where we got the names Groats, Florins and Guineas from, then you're in the right place. Today we're taking a nostalgic dive into the pocket change of our ancestors. I've always liked languages, words and their origins, that sort of stuff. Etymology if you want the fancy word. So I thought I'd do a quick video on where the names from some of our old coins came from. We'll start with LSD. Before we get to the individual coins, we have to talk about the system itself. Pounds, shillings and pence, or LSD. In 1969 you might have heard songs referencing lots of LSD, and while some thought it was a drug reference, most Brits knew it simply meant pounds, shillings and pence. This peculiar shorthand actually dates back more than 1,000 years to the Romans. The L stands for libre, pounds, the S for solidi, shillings, and the D for denarii, pence. It's the reason why the symbol for a penny was a D until 1971. Charlemagne later formalised this into a system where 240 pence made £1, a standard that stuck in England for 7 centuries. It seems complicated to us now, but for generations it was second nature. 240 is actually a clever number for a currency system. You can divide it nicely by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, 24, 30, 40, 48, 60, 80 and 120. Maybe we should switch back. I'm kidding. Incidentally, how do you pronounce Charlemagne? When I was at school, I'm sure the teacher said Charlemagne, so I've always used that. But I seen Charlemagne used on the chase last week. The shilling. Let's start with a real heavyweight, the shilling. Officially worth 12 pence, it was first minted as a coin called a testoon by Henry VII in 1503. The name testoon came from the Italian testone, meaning headpiece, because it was one of the first English coins to feature a realistic portrait of the king. The name shilling itself is even older. It likely comes from the Old English shilling, meaning a cutting or slice, referring to the days when bits of precious metal were chopped off to use as money. But as for its most famous nickname, the bob, that one is a bit of a mystery. Some say it links to bobstick, a 19th century slang term, while others have suggested a connection to Sir Robert Walpole. As Chancellor of the Exchequer, Bob Walpole reduced the land tax from 4 shillings down to 1. The people were so pleased that the shilling coin allegedly took his name. Whatever the origin, by the 1960s, everyone knew that 2 bob was 24 pence. I do hope I pronounced shilling correctly. I did look it up. Any old English speakers watching? The florin. Next up is the florin, or the 2 shilling piece. This one was actually an early attempt at decimalisation back in 1849. The name was borrowed from the gold coin Fiorino d'Oro, minted in Florence, Italy centuries earlier. The British florin had a rocky start. The first version in 1849 omitted the words Dea Gratia, by the grace of God, causing a public outcry and earning it the nickname the Godless Florin. The master of the mint, a Roman Catholic named Richard Lalor Shiel, was even suspected of plotting to overthrow the Protestant regime. It was worth exactly 1/10 of a pound, and it actually survived decimalisation for a while, circulating as a 10 pence piece, aka the 2 bob bit, until the early 90s. The Groat. If you're a fan of medieval history, you'll definitely know the Groat. It was worth 4 pence and was officially introduced by Edward I in 1279. The name comes from the Dutch groot, or the Latin grossus, simply meaning thick or large. Unlike the thin silver pennies of the time, the groat was a thick penny, The groat had largely disappeared by the 19th century, but it made a surprise comeback in 1836 for a very specific reason: London cabbies. The radical politician Joseph Hume campaigned for the coin's reintroduction because he felt cab drivers were ripping people off. Short rides often cost less than 6pence, but passengers rarely had the right change, so cabbies would pocket the sixpence and keep the difference. Hume argued that a 4-penny coin would solve this. The coin was reintroduced, but the cabbies were furious at losing their tips. They sarcastically nicknamed the coin a joey after Joseph Hume. Ironically, when the groat was finally demonetised in 1888, the nickname joey didn't die, it simply hopped over to the silver 3-penny bit. The guinea. Now we move on from the cab rank to one of the most prestigious coins in British history, the guinea. First struck in 1663 under Charles II, it was Britain's first machine-struck gold coin. It wasn't an official name at first. People called it the guinea because the gold was sourced from the Guinea region of West Africa. Originally worth 20 shillings, that's £1, the guinea's value fluctuated wildly because the price of gold kept rising. By 1717, it was officially fixed at 21 shillings, £1 1 shilling in other words. Even after it was replaced by the sovereign in 1816, the guinea remained a posh unit of account. Doctors and lawyers would invoice in guineas, and to this day racehorses are still auctioned in guineas. Some fine art auctions also still use guineas. The seller kept the pounds, and the extra shilling in every guinea was traditionally the commission for the auctioneer, and it also survives in the name of some horse races such as the 1,000 and 2,000 guineas. The Thrupenny bit. Who could forget the Thrupenny bit? Known officially as the threepence, it first appeared in 1551. We all remember the chunky 12-sided brass version introduced in 1937, which was a godsend during the blackouts of World War II because you could identify it just by touch. As I said earlier, it inherited its nickname, the joey, from the groat. When the 4-pence groat vanished, the name hopped over to the silver 3-pence instead. The farthing. The smallest of the bunch was the farthing, worth just a quarter of a penny. Its name is quite literal, deriving from the Old English Farthing, or a fourth part. In the early days, if you didn't have a farthing, you'd simply take a pair of tin snips to a silver penny and snip it into 4 pieces. But eventually the farthing became a coin in its own right. By the time the farthing was scrapped at the end of 1960, inflation had made it almost worthless. Still, it's fondly remembered for the tiny wren on its reverse, the smallest bird for the smallest coin. As the old saying went, if you were broke, you didn't have 2 farthings to rub together. The sixpence. Finally, we have the beloved sixpence. First minted in 1551, it was the coin of traditions, slipped into a bride's shoe for luck or stirred into a Christmas pudding. Its nickname, the Tanner, is one of the most debated in numismatics. Some say it's named after John Sigismund Tanner, a chief engraver at the Royal Mint, who designed a sixpence for George II. Others believe it comes from the Romany word tono, meaning small thing. There's even a theory it was called a bender because when they were high purity silver, you could actually bend them with your teeth to prove they were real or to make a love token. Because sixpence was enough to buy a decent amount of alcohol in Victorian times, going out to spend your benders led to the phrase going on a bender, getting thoroughly intoxicated. It really was a fascinating system, wasn't it? While decimalisation made the maths easier, we definitely lost some of the character and soul of our money when those old coins disappeared. The bobs, the tanners and the threepenny bits were consigned to history, replaced by the clinical logic of 100 pennies to the pound. I'd love to hear your memories. Do you remember the weight of a pocket full of old pennies? Or perhaps you still have a lucky sixpence tucked away somewhere? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to yesterday's Britain Scrapbook for more trips down memory lane.